kicking off.
We're live.
We're live. It's Saturday. Okay. All right. Welcome to our health shop tonight. Tonight we're going to be going over the dangers of sugar. As it pertains for me, I'll be going over more of the emotional section. Dr. Chip will go next with more of the physical, tying in really a lot of it together. But also Dr. Mark's going to be going over more of the sugars of the dangers, as well as a couple more notes he's got going on with the news itself. So first, I'm going to be going over how sugar relates to the emotional side. I'm Coach Ed, if you don't know who I am. And the one big thing we always kind of look at here, we always like looking at the brain or the mind, but really we're looking at this side of the brain of how it's activated. You know, when we're eating sugar, it's really activating the same brain or same type of the brain of when we don't do it, but if we were going to do cocaine itself. So this sugar is activating the different types of it, and it's causing an addictional nature to things. And that's our main focus on this, is we're looking at more of the hormones that are being produced by that brain. And the hormone that we're looking at is going to be dopamine. And dopamine is the feel-good hormone. So just like people that are addicted to cocaine, they have this feel-good hormone that comes to them once they're doing the cocaine. And the same comes to the line with sugar. So dopamine is our focus as it pertains to the emotional side of health, because when we find ourselves getting this feel-good hormone, it starts to become addictive. But we can come and release this hormone in many different ways. However, sugar is very addictive when it comes to releasing hormone. It's causing this feel-good feeling. So what we're looking at this is, you may not be able to see it on your screen, but I'm going to point it out to you, that really this hormone comes to play when we have pleasure activities. So we release the hormone, and then drugs, it says in this one, or we can relate it as in sugar, is sugar short circuits the natural cycle that's making the brain release the dopamine. So what's that is meaning is the sugar is causing a dopamine release, and it's shutting down the receptor. So this is the reason why we need more sugar to the same good feeling. Or we can go in another sense of people with cocaine or any type of drug, it's coming down to the dopamine release that is causing the addictive nature. Now, we can focus upon this by looking at it, saying the dangers of sugar, which they are in some concerns, but however, I want to look at it as a different way of how we can release the dopamine naturally. The big thing that we like looking at here is exercise itself can be releasing the dopamine. And that's why some people, they get very addictive into exercise, but some people have moderate amounts of exercises, so they're releasing this dopamine just naturally throughout their lives. So if we can continuously keep that a habit, then we can find ourselves releasing our own dopamine naturally, so we won't have to reach out to get sugar or anything down those lines. A big one that we like looking at as well is just getting enough sleep. It's very, sometimes when we wake up, it's a feel good to just start sleeping. We're waking up naturally. It's a great feeling just to get a lot of great rest, so we can release that dopamine naturally throughout the day to get some exercise, or a couple more tips that we're going to be looking at. And the other one is listening to music. I'm sure everybody's been on that boat. We sit there, we're relaxing, and we're just listening to this music, and you can feel that the song itself is really just guiding you within the song, and it's making you feel good. Well, during this time, you are releasing the dopamine that's making it feel good. There's plenty of great songs out there. Everyone has their own little genres of music that they like, but I always kind of like going towards more of the classical or the instrumental to release that really good dopamine naturally. So another one that I personally love is to meditate. Meditate's one of those things that we can calm the mind down. And the part of that as well is when we calm the mind down, we're actually releasing that dopamine that makes us feel good for just being present in the moment, which is very powerful. And if we can condition our mind to continuously to keep that mind calmed down, which may be causing more stress hormones of thinking too far into the future, or the mind, thinking about the past so much, all during that time is releasing a lot of different hormones. So if we can quiet that mind, if we can get ourselves meditating in a sense, we will be releasing that dopamine naturally. And it feels much, much better over the period of the day, because our thoughts that we have or continue to happen throughout the day, we keep them calm and relaxed. We can be releasing dopamine all the time, just the fact by living. So meditation, a very big one. And another one is just having fun. Everyone releases a lot of dopamine when we do something fun, activity-wise. So for instance, for me, I love playing sand volleyball. So I'll be releasing a lot of dopamine during those times, just naturally having fun. And it's bingo bango. We got ourselves two of them that we're doing right there. We're releasing a bunch of dopamine just by exercising. Sometimes there's music out there on the sand volleyball courts. So it's all working together. So I just wanted to touch a little bit of how we can release the feel hormone that we can substitute, in a sense, of how we can do that naturally, so we don't have to reach outside the body for anything or sugar to release that dopamine within. So if we can get it naturally, then why do we have to reach outside for it? So we can get much better choices when it comes to food and anything else down dopamine release activities. So that is all I got for me. Dr. Chip is up, and he's going to talk a little bit more about sugar.
All right, I'm Dr. Chip. That's good information, Eddie. Thank you. So, again, kind of similar slides to last time, but we'll kind of go through it again. How this works again is that in life we have different stresses, and again, that could be traumas, from physical trauma, too much exercise, not moving enough. The thoughts are very important, and we're going to actually explain how sugar has a big impact on that. And then technology again, good in a sense, but if we're addicted or we're using it for other purposes that kind of make us kind of use it too much, then again, that could be bad. But tonight we're talking about the toxins, the sugars. So that can be an imbalance to the body. So again, sugars, what are we really talking about here? Now, again, there are good forms of sugars. The food that you find in nature, vegetables have a little sugar in them. Starchy carbs are kind of more of the same thing as sugar, the way it's processed in the body. But really, here you can kind of see more of that simple sugar. And this is not found in nature. This is processed very quick by the body, and it becomes a very addicting nature if we eat too much of it. Now again, these foods are not like a just end-all be-all where we can't have them, and if you have them, then you have really bad issues. No, it's okay to enjoy these every now and then, but we want to make sure that we're not doing it too much. And again, especially during the holiday season, you never want to kind of overindulge in those things too. It kind of almost becomes a habit, and then you gotta work your way back out of it here too. And so again, why is sugar such a important aspect, or it's important to limit yourself to that? So our brain, again, is what controlling our body, but also is that our gut is very impactful in that too, is that because it has a brain of its own. And when we eat a lot of sugar, then our bodies become more of our brains, or you would say our unconscious minds. We're actually being controlled by our bodies. So think of it like this: if we're eating different foods, sugary foods, or if we're not getting good foods throughout the day, our blood sugar levels keep going up and down like this. And so when we're not having very stable blood sugar, that's when we can become irritated, cranky, angry, upset about something's bothering us very easily, more so than we would normally. And so when that happens, again, just like we said before, the thoughts and the toxins can actually cause us to have bad thoughts. And bad thoughts, again, can lead us to be stressed, cranky, irritated, which leads us to eating these different sugars. So again, it kind of goes both ways there, is that if, like when Eddie said, when we meditate, when we exercise, when we do things to help calm our minds down, then our guts actually feel better. Now, when we eat good foods, when we're able to do things in that nature, then our minds are more calm. And so again, we don't want to keep elevating those blood sugar levels. We want to make sure they're very stable. And again, like we said, it's not a bad thing to eat these foods every once in a while. But when we overindulge or we do it too long for too long periods of time, then again, we have those really big spikes where you go from very anxious to depressed, irritated to black or anything like that. And so again, we want to make sure that we're eating those good whole foods, natural foods that we find in nature, so that again our bodies are used to eating those and we're able to process things a lot better, you'd say. So again, some healthy tips. Eddie kind of explained more that exercise, meditation, having fun, those are all great things, and it kind of goes along the similar lines here too. And so again, carbs and sugars, if you're going to eat them, just eat them last. Fill up on those good foods, and it helps you not to overindulge in those other foods there too. Move and walk. Again, there's a lot of studies out there that shows that movement before or after eating helps to really stabilize your blood sugar levels. And then laughter. Again, like Eddie said, having fun, but even laughing is just a very good way to help you have that good feeling to where then your body is able to handle that sugar better. So again, sometimes when you have a negative thoughts about something, especially about food, or when you're mad about something but you're eating healthy food, that can be. But if you're happy when you're eating those foods, then that works well. So even your thoughts can make foods like a poison, or your thoughts can make foods like a medicine. So it's good to balance those out, and especially just eating good foods most of the time will help balance that out too. So I think that is it for me. I will turn it over to Dr. Mark.
Great, yeah. Still on sugar, yes. Thanks, Dr. Chip. Okay, great. So quite a bit going on with sugar, and it's one of those topics that been this long enough I could probably talk about it for hours, but I'll try not to do that. So I want to go back. I saw a great slide that Dr. Chip had there. This one. So yeah, these foods we can get by with. The problem that a lot of people have with these type of foods is kind of like an alcoholic. We start that and then, well, I got by with it, let's try another one. And especially with our holidays, we get into a bad habit. So that's the only problem with these highly processed sugars. Dr. Chip talked about that, the other foods that are starchy, those are complex carbohydrates. The body has a harder time breaking those down. And so that's why it's important to know that part. But the difference is there. We're looking at processed sugars, which Dr. Chip talked about, are not things in nature, but sugars in nature, the body can handle those without too much trouble. And then again, if we get the high amounts of sugar in the bloodstream, which releases the high amounts of dopamine, that is the addictive part, and it's actually, 7 times more addictive than cocaine, sugar is, or processed sugar. So it becomes a big problem. And of course, what is a third of this country diagnosed with? Diabetes or pre-diabetes. So it's not like 1 or 2 people are hooked on sugar. This country is hooked on sugar. That's a big problem because that drives diabetes, and obesity drives all the other diseases, or most all the other degenerative type diseases in there. The big problem with processed sugars, again, is that when you take it out of a food context, you removed all the proteins, the fiber, the minerals, the vitamins that come with it. All you're getting is just the sugar part, just the glucose or the sucrose. Most of the time is what processed sugar is, sucrose, which is half glucose, half fructose. So, and glucose is very easily absorbed in the body. It's very quickly absorbed, and it makes insulin spike, causes all kind of problems with the cardiovascular system, which again, that's your pre-diabetes. If you get more into problems, you have insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome. When your blood sugar gets above 100 dysphagia, that's diabetes. It's just different terms for the same progression of problems in there. And you may go, well, gee, Dr. Mark, I don't eat any sugar. Well, there's all these names for sugar, 7 to 8 different names on the manufacturer's list for sugar. I think Eddie might have more than that there. So a lot of different names for sugar. People think, well, fruit juice is good for you. Well, no. When you take it out of the fruit and concentrate it, it's sugar. Dextrose, corn syrup solids, cane sugar, coconut sugar, still sugar. It's still taken out of the food context. I don't care where it comes from. Once they put it into a bag or whatever, then it's taken out of food context. It's still a refined sugar. One of the worst ones here, though, too, is high fructose corn syrup. I don't see on the list here. It's got to be here somewhere. Where's fructose? There it is. I can see a high fructose corn syrup. So that's one of the worst ones. Where fructose is hard, the body has a hard time dealing with fructose. And that's the fructose, that's the sugar that's in fruit. So again, you hear all the time about you got to have your fruits and vegetables, and that's to be healthy, have your fruits and vegetables. Well, again, just like the donuts, a lot of people have problems with that much sugar. They think I can have fruit instead of vegetables because you hear this fruits and vegetables, fruits and vegetables. And so we try to get our patients to not even look at eating too many fruits because, again, the body isn't really meant to have fruit. Back in caveman days, the only time you ever had fruit was at the end of the summer season when the fruit would ripen and then people would hog out on it and gain a bunch of weight. They could survive the winter that way. That's how we've gotten used to it. The problem with our society is with refrigeration things, we can have fruit all the time. So a lot of times people think, well, I can just have fruit rather than vegetables. Let's have a banana instead of a salad, which is really, really wrong for how the body works. So just important to realize that sugar is in lots of things. And many people, if you look on the packages of processed foods, will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these names in there. And you think, well, I don't see sugar, I don't see refined sugar or anything, but all these are in there. So you really have to look for that, and just realize that processed foods are just the good things to stay away from, because most of them are processed, which means they take out all the good nutrients in there. You're just getting sugar, getting a very tasty food. We're going to talk about that in a little bit here. So the manufacturers know how to do that. We'll go to the next slide here. Now, this is going to be very hard to see, as the one back here, a lot of names here. We have these handouts here at Natural Health. You're welcome to come by and get those. We're happy to send them out because we want people to understand what's going on. Diabetes is a huge problem in this country, and eating sugar. So I should actually explain that too. That it's in this list, but again, it's so hard to see because there's so many. 146 reasons why sugar is ruining your health. Basically, a list of all the degenerative diseases in the human body that the human body gets a hold of comes from sugar, or at least sugar is a part of it. Now, what's one of the big things everybody's working on right now? Well, it's your immune system. So what's the first thing that sugar robs when you eat refined sugar? The body wants to use the glucose for energy, but what does it rob? What system does it rob to use that energy? Well, it robs the nutrients out of the immune system when your body has this all this refined sugar to use. So a good demonstration, if you take a can of Coca-Cola and 2 Twinkies, if you have that in the morning for breakfast, you've ruined your immune system for the day. So anybody that coughs on you or anything that you get in contact with, your body doesn't really have the ability to fight it for that day. It's using the minerals in the immune system to fight that, to process that sugar. Because if you don't process it, you'll go into a coma. So it's really important that your body has to take care of that sugar right now. It can work on infections later, but it has to take care of that sugar right now. So important to realize that's a big deal. And so these are 146 reasons why sugar is ruining your health by Dr. Nancy Appleton, PhD. You can get this as part of a book she has. So we have that in a handout here at the office. And it's real important to look at, to realize that sugar can cause cataract, sugar can cause emphysema, sugar can cause depression, sugar increases the risk of gastric ulcer. I mean, on and on and on. 146 times what's going on with what sugar can cause. So, again, and really, it's important to understand when we're talking about sugar in these contexts, we're really talking about refined sugar. Now, again, some people have problems even with like fruit sugar and things like that, but really important to realize refined sugars in these processed foods are what's behind all this. And we're not talking about it today, but we should do that sometime. But even the refined oils, the seed oils, vegetable oils, are just as bad as sugar in ruining your health, but in a different way. So that's another thing to keep in mind. We'll go to the next handout here. The body has a taste for sugar, salt, and fats. And this is another handout we have. And again, Coach Eddie put these on there, but you can't hardly read them. It's pretty small. But you can stop the slide and blow it up if you can. But anyway, we had this handout. But it's just, the point is the body has a taste in our tongue for sugar, salt, and fats. We need to have those foods. And the reason we have that is because that's what we absolutely have to survive famines. You have to get, your body has to have some sugar to survive the famine. Now it can run on fats, but if you have sugar, that's a simpler thing to get a hold of. And then salt, and then fats. It has to have those essential things to survive famines. And usually fats come with proteins. So the proteins and fats, essentials there. So the manufacturers have learned how to use this against us. So most processed foods have a high amount of one or all of these foods. So for instance, if you have a low sugar food, when you want low sugar, well, it'll have a lot of salt in it, because you take the sugar out of it or the fats out of it, or low fat food, it has to have a lot of salt in it, to that way. And again, it's processed salt, the salt that causes trouble. So we're going to try to avoid that. But just to realize these processed foods have a lot of problem there. One of the things we also have on our handout is that there's a great video called "Is Sugar Toxic?" on YouTube, which is a 60 Minutes article. If you put "Is Sugar Toxic?" in the search engine there on YouTube, this comes up. It's a great 60 Minutes article, and it's from other doctors, other disciplines that go into this, understanding how this works. And the doctor they're interviewing there, Dr. Robert Lustig, MD, he's has studied this for years, and if you go onto his YouTube channel, he has a lot of explanations into the biochemistry. If you're wanting to really learn the biochemistry of this, he can talk, Dr. Robert Lustig there, can talk a lot about that. Let's see, what do we have? So that's a good information on that. I wanted to also, again, talk about our sources of independent news, because it's so important. You don't get a lot of the information that we talk about on mainstream media. Why is that? Why do you think that is? Well, who are the sponsors of mainstream media? Who do you? Pepsi, Coke, candy manufacturers, big food, big pharma. Big pharma don't care how sick you are. They want to sell you the things to try to cure you. So it's a thing realizing that mainstream media has to deal with their sponsors. So you really need to look at a lot of independent media. A couple great ones. Ivor Cummings, again, an engineer, has a lot of information on sugar. One that I don't have on here is, what is it called? Something Down Under. What is that? Low Carb Down Under. Yeah, Low Carb Down Under is a great website. They have a YouTube channel too, and they talk about a lot of this there too. They have a lot of good stuff there. The highway at the Big Tree Natural News, Mike Adams, really good stuff there. Brighteon.com, a lot of good videos on that one. Let's see, I think that's the main one talking about. Green Med Info, he has a lot of medical information on there, and talks about sugar and a lot of that kind of stuff too. Again, just looking at what's going on that causes the problems in here. And these sources of independent media are not only important for sugar or diet, but also for a lot of this COVID information right now. There's so much ambiguity and fakeness in a lot of this news that's out there right now, and even the election stuff. But anyway, I don't want to go there. So anyway, hope that gives you some great information on sugar and why it's important to at least start paying attention to it a little bit. Again, we have a lot of problem with obesity and diabetes in this country, heart disease, cancer, which is just a problem with the immune system. So that's really important to use. Well, one thing I wanted to mention too, on when you eat a lot of the refined carbs and sugars and things, it also changes the pH of your body, and your pH starts to go alkaline relatively in the body. And so what does that allow? That allows for more bugs to grow, and especially yeast. Yeast really takes off with candida and things, takes off with a lot of use of carbs and things. So another reason we want to get away from all these carbs and sugars, because it changes the pH in the body. So, and we talk a lot about that when we work with our patients in nutrition there. So anyway, that's enough for me. Glad you could make it tonight. Let's see, go to the next slide here, which coming up next week is our healthy Christmas recipes. Now, the folks that work here for me, they've done a great job putting together a little recipe book, and we'll go over that next week. But there are ways of making sweeter foods that are not full of sugar and carbs. Hard to believe, but you can do it. And we've done quite a bit of experimenting around the office here to find good ways of doing that. And so you don't even have to make your divinity fudge. You can make some other good things that taste as good or better, but actually are healthy for you. So that'll be next week. Again, thanks for watching. Don't forget, we're at Natural Health Quincy, IL for Facebook and Instagram. Our website too is naturalhealthquincy.com. Coach Eddie's done a lot of work at getting some great information on there. If you go to the top of videos, there's a lot of videos there that explain what we do in the office, so you can even find out what we do before you even come in. So it's pretty interesting stuff. We just finished that this week. YouTube and Brightian.com. Again, we have to put all things on Brightian because they're an independent source. They're not censoring any of this natural information as YouTube is doing. And then we're at 2000 Jefferson, Quincy, Illinois. Always give us a call too at 217-228-2040. And remember, don't worry, be healthy. We'll see you next week. Thanks.